Hello, everyone. Yolanda here, back with another Black Minimalists live chat. Coordinated. Anyway, so happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. And for those of you who have lost your father, may you find peace and acceptance. I hope you had a good Father's Day weekend. Today is actually Juneteenth. 152 years ago on this day, the Black folks in Texas who were enslaved found out that the war was over and they were free. This was 2.5 years. Lord, his hair. This was 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was issued on January 1st, 1863. So happy Juneteenth, although it doesn't feel like a very happy time right now in this country. As you know, or may not know, on Friday, Philando Castile's murderer was acquitted. Not only was he acquitted, but he is negotiating with the local county where they're at for a little amicable separation package. So not only did he get away with murder, but he's also probably getting some type of severance pay or something, and he gets to go about his business and his life and go to some other county or state and still be a police officer if he chooses to, or to get in some other line of work. Also, Charlena Lyles, she was a pregnant woman in Seattle who called the police to report a burglary, and she was gunned down with her 3 children in the home. That happened over the weekend. And another young girl, just found out about this today, Nabra Hassanin, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, but she was beaten to death in Sterling, Virginia. Apparently a man stopped the car. There was an argument between Nabra and her friends, and they ran, and she fell or tripped, and she was beaten with a baseball bat to death, and her body was found in a pond. So, and it's also the 2-year anniversary of the Emmanuel AME Church shooting, where 9 Black lives were taken in a senseless terrorist attack. So, yeah, happy Juneteenth. What does it mean really to be Black in this country, and how do we find our way to freedom, and what does freedom look like? Samara. Those are the questions that I've sort of been grappling with really for a long time, and that's the thing, some of the things that I want to talk about tonight with you all. I definitely invite you, as we talk, to sort of leave your questions and comments in the comment section, share your thoughts on Black liberation and freedom and how it feels to be Black in America. And hopefully we'll have a very productive conversation tonight. So yeah, what does it mean to be Black in America? The first quote that comes to mind that I think about is James Baldwin's quote, which says, and I may be paraphrasing a little bit, to be a Negro in this country and somewhat conscious is to be in a constant state of rage. And that's what I've been feeling. A very internalized rage. Like, do you know what it feels like to scream inside of your head? That's what it feels like these days. And it's just a very heavy feeling. Like, I don't know that I've ever felt 100% safe in this country, but I definitely do not feel safe in these current days. I live on the eastern shore of Maryland. It's rural, predominantly white. It's racist. You know, they overwhelmingly voted for Trump in this region. And I just always feel like I'm like looking over my shoulder and like any moment something could happen. Thankfully, we haven't had many incidents that I'm aware of in this area, at least not recently. But I just feel like every day I feel less and less safe. And it's really something heavy to deal with, and I don't know how to deal with it. So please share your feelings about how you guys feel wherever you're at in the country, what your feelings are being Black in America. Besides, rage, it's just a feeling of like hopelessness, and definitely a constant feeling of like fight or flight. Which kind of leads me into talking about how minimalism intersects with being Black in America, specifically talking about fight or flight. So here are the two things that I grapple with when it comes to minimalism. The savage minimalist within me says, fuck it all, burn this place down, walk away, and let the ashes fertilize a new nation, a new country, and let's just start over again. I realize in saying that everyone doesn't have the ability to walk away or feels like they can't walk away. It's a privilege to be able to leave this country and travel to other nations and live in other nations. But even in doing so, you can't escape white supremacy. It has touched every corner of this world. And I think what's difficult for a lot of Black people when thinking about this concept is that we feel like because we built this country, we have a claim to it and it belongs to us. And I guess my question in that is this country really worth fighting for? And are you willing to die for this land? We'll come back to the topic of land and ownership in a second. So that's one part of it, the flight part, where you just walk away from it and say, forget about it. The fight part of it, is where we hear people talking about, taking back this country forcefully, or not forcefully. People talk about doing it through the legal process, the political process, which I think is dead. This is my personal opinions also that I'm sharing about this. The revolutionary part of it, which is, taking up arms and fighting. Also, just buying up land, boycotting large corporations, supporting Black businesses, and basically building our own communities, even possibly self-segregating ourselves within the U.S. And basically forming our own nation within a nation, which is very like Black nationalist thought. On that hand of staying and fighting, again, it goes back to the question of, are you willing to die? Because we've created our own communities before. We've owned land. We've built our own businesses for our communities, and they came and destroyed them. So inevitably, if we start to form these communities again, they will show up at some point. Because they don't believe that we have a right to this land. And that's not even to mention the natives who were here first, who are still here, even though they're in smaller numbers. They still exist. And what claim do they have to this land? Also, so yeah, I've definitely, me personally, I'm struggling with this. I'm sort of in the flight camp, as I've discussed on here before. I am planning to move to Mexico in the fall to live there for a time, and then when I get tired of that, go somewhere else. I do plan to come back and forth to America, but I really need a break from this country. This country is not good for my health. It's not good for your health either if you're Black or brown or any person of color. So personally, I'm in the flight camp, but sometimes I just feel like, I don't know, it makes me feel guilty, sort of, to sort of leave folks behind, and Black people in general. But at the same time, this is all about survival, and I gotta do what I gotta do. And for me right now, that's leaving. I see Clarence and Farai in the comments. How do you guys feel about this? Like, what camp do you sort of fall in for flight or flight for Black folks in this country? I know Farai posted something on her Facebook today about, building a commune for us to go and live on. And I feel that idea too. Farai says, fuck this country. She wrote duck, but I'm going to say fuck because it's warranted. But the crazy thing is, so yes, I'm leaving. I'm going to live abroad for a while. And I know many Black people that live abroad. If you follow any of like the Black travel groups, especially the Black travel movement, there are so many Black people that are, not only traveling more, but just moving abroad. But on the other hand, so yesterday we went out for Father's Day. We went to see my grandfather, and we went to like the annual Father's Day thing that they have in this park that's named after my great grandfather. And we went to visit some folks around. So the town is called Pond Town. I know that sounds so country, but we are country. Anyway, we were in Pond Town. We went to visit, another family, friends of our family. And there was across the street, there was a little tiny house. It was like maybe, not like a tiny, tiny house, but like maybe 500, 600 square feet. on some land and had for sale sign in front of it. So I asked, because it was the person that we went to see is their family's property and they're selling it. I asked them, how much do they want for it? So it's a house plus 5 acres of property, 5 acres of land. 1 acre about is clear and the other 4 acres are wooded. They want $39,000 for it. Like, that's nothing in the grand scheme of things. That's not a lot of money. It's very cheap for 5 acres of land and a house, even though the house is small. And it's just like, I got to thinking, like, and I say we because I would want to purchase it collectively, because I don't want to be 100% financially responsible for it, because I do still want to travel, but like, we could form a collective, purchase this property, have it paid off like that, or purchase it outright like that, and start this little commune that Farai's talking about. Like, and I haven't let go of the idea of it. Even if we got 10 people, 15 people, 20 people to throw down a couple of $1,000s on it, we could buy this property and have it. I mean, they're not quite sure he wasn't quite sure if it's been sold or not yet, but the for sale sign was still up front, so I'm guessing maybe it hasn't been sold yet. But, it's definitely an idea I'm toying with. If anybody's serious, I got a couple of grand I can throw down on it right now. Let me know. But the thing is, there's property like this all over the country. It's going to be cheaper in areas that are more rural, more isolated. I'm sure out in the Midwest, there's probably a lot of inexpensive property. Personally, I don't want to be in the Midwest, but even, along the East Coast and even down south, there are lots of properties like this that people are selling that could be easily purchased by one person or a group of people. So how do we feel about this idea? Like, are we down for it? I don't know. But we have to do something. And I don't think that the political process is going to get us our freedom, because we've been doing this for many, many decades now, and we're still not free. Son of Baldwin, he posted, I don't know if you guys follow Son of Baldwin, but if you don't, you should. He's an activist, scholar, writer who talks about Blackness in America and all the intersectionalities of our Blackness and race and all that. He's a very great writer. He takes his name, Son of Baldwin, he feels like he is a, I don't know what the word is for, but like us, but an offshoot son, I don't forget what the word is. Progenital, is that the word? Anyway, James Baldwin, he follows in his footsteps. And that's where his writing is influenced and inspired by. But anyway, he posted about Juneteenth and the irony of the fact that in that time it took 2.5 years for the enslaved Black people in Texas to find out that they were free. And that even today, some Black folks still don't know that they're free. And the reality is we aren't. But what is freedom? What does it mean? What does it look like? And back to the minimalism question, really, what are we willing to let go of to get our freedom? Because we will have to let go of a lot of things and people. People will die. Innocent people will die. And they will be casualties of war, unfortunately. Because it's going to come down to war. There's never been a peaceful revolution. So are we prepared for this? Are we willing to let go of these things we have accumulated, physical things. Are you willing to give up your mortgage, your car payment, anything that will stop you from being free? Are you willing to give those things up? And that, sort of leads us into capitalism, because that's also the insidious beast lurking underneath of white supremacy and oppression in this country. Capitalism is the reason why we ended up here in the first place. We were stolen, we were bought, we were traded to come here and build this new world that we have no ownership of. Capitalism is what divides us. Capitalism is the reason why we have the rich and the poor, the working class, the middle class, which the middle class is really just the working class. Also, they're the working class that has a few more benefits than the poor working class. Capitalism is based on profitability and worth. And when you are deemed to be worthless, you are oppressed. And that's what it boils down to. And even capitalism is not very old, but I believe it's been probably the most destructive force. Capitalism and white supremacy together have been the most destructive forces that have brought us to this point in the last couple of thousands of years. So are we willing to give up our ties to capitalism? I don't see nobody answering none of these questions in the comments that I'm throwing out here, because I don't have the answers. Like I said, my personal answer is to burn this shit down. But I feel like many of us, many Black folks, don't want to let go of the things capitalism has given them. And even within capitalism and the structure of our country, our government, we still don't even own these things. You have a mortgage. If you miss a payment, the bank or the government seizes your home or your property if you don't pay. Doesn't matter how much you've paid up to that point. If you stop paying, they will seize it. If you're not paying your car note, it will be repossessed. Or even if you paid off your car, if you don't keep insurance on it, pay whatever taxes you have to pay on it, you can't drive it. Like, what do we really own? Do we even own our own selves? Like, ooh, these questions, they're really deep. And people say they want freedom, but I don't think we really do. Clarence said, word, because capitalism is all that's been pushed on us. When taught about ideologies such as socialism, they only teach us how much better capitalism is. Yeah, and had there ever been a true socialist nation? I mean, we've had communist countries. I think Cuba, I don't know if Cuba considers itself communism and socialism. And bonus points to anybody in the comments who wants to clarify the difference between communism and socialism for me. Um, but even with those structures, well, I'm thinking specifically about communism because I'm not sure what the difference is between socialism and communism. But with communism, the government still owns everything, it's state controlled. So even then, it's not equal. And even with communism, you still have an underclass, you still have a working class, the producer class, who pays with their labor into a communist system that is controlled by the government. So even there, it's not true freedom or equality. So how do we, if we are to build these new communities, how do we structure them? Can we go back to a barter-based economy where everybody contributes based on their skills and talents? You know, I trade you a painting for a couple of loaves of bread or something like that. But I feel like even in a barter economy, value is going to be placed on certain things above others. But I don't know. I've never lived in a barter economy before. But they worked for a long time before capitalism became popular and took over the world. But like, really, what are y'all's feelings on this? Like, do you feel like we can escape capitalism and the oppression from it? Let's see. Clarence says, well, the answer to your Barty question probably comes in the form of other questions, i.e., can we build enough trust amongst our people to successfully carry that out? Clarence brings up a very good point. Because let's say we decide to form our own communities, we get this barter system together, we build our own homes, we grow our own food, we self-actualize within these communities. There are still layers of oppression that we have not dealt with within our communities also. Oppression based on gender, sexual orientation, classism. Just because we form these communities doesn't mean what we've learned up until that point just goes out of our minds. It doesn't mean that automatically everyone is free and no one is oppressed. We still have to work through these other issues within our community. All right, Clarence, hold on. He's saying, can we successfully separate ourselves from all that's been taught? Yeah, that's kind of what I just mentioned. Like, just because we're moving into these communities don't mean we have forgotten everything that's been ingrained in us, good and bad. And we would still have a lot of issues to work through as a community within the Black community so that we aren't oppressing each other. He also says, can we sidestep Black initiatives such as COINTELPRO, which are designed to sabotage our community? Another great question, because as I said earlier, we have done this before. They've destroyed our communities. So if we try to do this again, they will definitely come for us. But will we be prepared? And can we successfully thwart the FBI and COINTELPRO, the CIA, and all those folks who will surely come for us when they see us thriving in our own communities and not worried about them? Clarence also asks, have we learned enough from Black Wall Street in Tulsa or Move in Philly to avoid the blatant attempts of destruction by outsiders? For those of you who don't know what happened in Philly, and I'm not that familiar with it, but I know that they basically blew up a whole block of Black folks who had formed their own community. Yeah, they blew them all up. And Clarence, he might know more. He might have more details. If you can share more details about the move thing in the comments, that would be great. But the gist of it is that it was a self-contained community in Philly, and they destroyed it. And this was recent history. I want to say, like, was it the 80s or 90s when the move happened? So yeah, I don't know. And do we? The other question, sorry, as I keep getting confused with my hair because of the camera showing it backwards. It did happen in the 80s. So this was recent history, you know, few decades ago that this happened. But another thing I wanted to ask is, can we truly unite, regardless of what we choose to do? Can we truly unite all of us, all Black folks together, and then other POC people who are down with the cause? Can we unite? And do we need to unite is another question, I guess. I think there are some people Black folks who won't want to give up anything that they've accumulated, things that they deem their success, to be free. So what do we do about people who don't decide to join in? Can we have a successful revolution with a minority of people? A minority of Black people? Can we unite with other groups to make it a greater fight? I don't know. I mean, I just don't know. What is going to be the difference now versus all the other movements that's happened prior to this? What would make our movement different? And how will we be successful in ways that we haven't been in the past? Clarence shares, if you're interested in learning more about the MOVE community, he says you can Google Ramona Africa or Mike Africa to get more details about the MOVE in Philly. It says, he provided more details about what happened. He said the police basically said that they accused them of conspiring against the government and of killing men, women, and children within their community, or like outsiders. Clarence shared this too. He says, if the Black man moved to an island all into himself, the white man will follow. Not because the Black man's amenities are better, but how dare he live happily without the white man. True on that. They are not going to let us be free without a war, for sure. I mean, look what happened to Haiti, the first free Black nation in the Americas. They still ain't left them alone. What was it? Was it 1492? No. I'm thinking about Columbus. Another fuck boy. Haitian freedom. Somebody give me the date in the comments. But anyway, it's been many centuries, and they're still messing with them in different ways. Did you know that the Haitian government basically owes France millions and millions, billions probably of dollars, basically for having the audacity to be free? Not only do they owe this tremendous debt to France, which shouldn't France be paying Haiti for all of the wealth that Haiti produced for them prior to independence? The irony. Not only that, but anytime there's a humanitarian crisis in Haiti, foreign governments come in and foreign aid groups, and they don't do any. They take all this money that's collected all over the world, and they squander it. It doesn't go to the people. It doesn't really help them rebuild, and it just creates this vicious cycle where every time something happens, the Haitian people end up in a worse spot than they were previously. And I know some more stuff happened with Haiti back in the 50s and 60s with the dictator, Papa Doc, and Baby Doc, and U.S. interference in Haiti. Also, the issues between Dominican Republic and Haiti. Like, it's unreal how they have tried to stop Haiti from flourishing all of these years. But Haiti is still holding on. So yeah, if they they still gunning for Haiti after over 500 years, they're gonna come for any group of Black folks that decide to create their own community. They'll make up lies about us, conspiracies, the same thing they did to all of the movements. So the question is, what is we gonna do about it? And that question still remains. I'm gonna take a drink. Feel free to leave any comments. Yep, it said same thing they did to Black Panthers, Civil Rights Movement, even the Back to Africa movement with Garvey. They have thwarted every movement. I mean, look at the way they even come for Black Lives Matter. This is present day times. Because we had the audacity to say that we matter. Terrence says he doesn't know if that question can truly be answered today. No, it can't be answered today. Probably not. But seriously, if it came down to, a war, what would you do? Would you flee? Would you fight? Would you be willing to kill people? I know it sounds kind of brutal and savage, but we all have to ask ourselves this question. Because if we truly want to be free, we're going to have to fight for it. Clarence says, going back to some of your earlier points, you'll have Black folk who believe in the political process. You have Black folk who believe in the militant or war process. You have Black folk who believe in the kumbaya process. The people who believe, yeah. And the question is, can all of those processes coexist? And can we still reach freedom within all of these various ways? So the people who want to be peaceful and nonviolent, the people who want to pursue the political process, and the people who want all out war, can we all coexist and still reach our end goal? Is the question. Is another question, rather. I personally don't have hope in the political process or in the Kumbaya movement. I believe it will all come down to war, but that's my personal opinions on it. And even, personally, I don't know if I would personally participate in this war. A part of me says yes, I would. But another part of me says I'll just get on a flight and never come back. And that's real talk. I think it's a question that we don't want to face. Which is why we're still stuck hundreds of years later trying to get free. Kenya says, yes, she thinks we can have multiple processes, but we will have fractured realities. Truth. That is truth. Do we need to unite? That's another question. Clarence says, let's see, did peace work for the colonials who fled Britain? Nope. Did peace work for the natives to this land when the Mayflower arrived? Nope. Did peace work for Haiti? Nope. And let's really care about the natives for one thing. They fought for as long as they could. They definitely didn't take the colonizers lying down. But even still, like, how do they feel? They are willing to fight. Clearly, we see them fighting out in Dakota and other places. But their demonstration was largely, peaceful on their part. They were assaulted by the police and the other, the DAPL supporters. But, they're definitely willing to fight. Clarence said it's most definitely a tough pill to swallow. Facing death is some trill shit, for sure. And to my question of if we need to unite, he says, yes, strength in numbers, but we need quality numbers. Yes, going back to minimalism, key tenet, quality over quantity. But who is willing to die? Who else? I know there's more people lurking in here that aren't commenting. What are your thoughts about everything? Okay, here's another question. Something that I came across today on Facebook is it's an organization called Black Land and Liberation. Their website is blacklandandliberation.org. And basically, they staged a movement today, I guess, an event today, basically, where they, in 40 cities, it was 40 cities, 40 acres, 40 cities. So basically, in these 40 cities, this group gathered and they basically went to abandoned lots, vacant buildings, and things like that with the goal of restoring these properties and I guess ultimately using them. I don't know. I don't have any updates on it, so I don't know how successful it has been, but I will check on that later on today or tomorrow to see how successful it was and if they encountered any resistance from law enforcement. Yeah, I'm definitely curious to see what the outcome of the 40 acres, 40 cities event was today. But like I said, if you want to check that out, it's I'll type it in the comments too. Blacklandandliberation.org. And like I said, this happened today, I believe. Yeah, Juneteenth. Is land ownership, so that brings me to the question of, is land ownership the key to Black liberation? Do we need to own anything? That's really, and that's coming from the minimalist perspective. Do we need to own anything to be free? Farai, you said self-sustainability is what? Important to freedom? Oh, she says, how are we going to eat? If we want to be free, we got to make our own food and sew our own clothes. True. And Clarence says, well, ownership is where capital and power come from. Very true. Do we run the risk of perpetuating the same ills of capitalism? I guess is my question when we talk about owning things. Rye says, so we do need land and a sewing machine. Amen. And she's saying, no, we can share. So are you thinking more of like a barter sort of economy, or is it just, I guess, communal? Where everyone shares. I mean, I think that is the ideal situation where the people who are able-bodied, able-minded, go and create these things, you know, build these crops, build these homes, this land, you know, use this land, and then we share what we produce with everyone, regardless of your ability to contribute or not. And I think that's another thing that sort of plays into capitalism, because as I said earlier, capitalism is based on your worth. And if you're deemed to not have any worth or any value or any skills or any talents that you can contribute, you are deemed as worthless and not having value. So if we form a community, can we get to the point within this community where we put aside those ideals that every single person has to produce something and contribute? Farai says she'll share her sewing machine with me. Well, I don't have one. My mom has one, but yeah, we can share. I'm sure we all got a lot of sewing machines and things to go around. We have all the tools. That's another thing that goes back to minimalism. Minimalism is about using what you already have instead of acquiring new things. We have everything that we need to build our own communities. Not only do we have physical capital, but we also have the financial capital. Black people in this country have, I think is it 1.7 trillion? So almost $2 trillion buying power in this country. Surely we can do this. But are we willing to do it? Farai shares kids have no worth, but we take them on until they do. It's about kindness and love. True, but true. And also, in addition to that, there are some people, I won't say they don't have worth, but there are some people that can't contribute in the same ways. People who are disabled, or people who have mental illnesses. They still have worth and value, even though they can't contribute physically and in other ways to building up a community. In our current community, those people are ostracized and isolated and looked down upon. But in a new community, we have to support everyone regardless of their ability to contribute. Let's see. Clarence shared, the problem is we fail to truly realize the power of our dollar. Goes back to not knowing if you're free or not. Truth. If we believe that our freedom is connected to each other, then we're absolutely not free. Are we as a people, as Black people, willing to interrogate ourselves? Because as I mentioned a little bit earlier, forming these communities is relatively simple in theory, but just because we have sort of insulated ourselves from white supremacy to a certain degree, we still have other things that we need to deal with. Sexism, classism, discrimination, oppression, don't support all of our people. Clarence says people hate finding fault within themselves. Yeah, people do hate it, but it's the only way we can truly be liberated, not just physically, but spiritually and emotionally and mentally, is if we deal with these hard issues within our community. Sexism, classism, colorism, misogyny, patriarchy, ableism, ageism, the list is never, I wouldn't say never ending, but we got a lot of shit to deal with within ourselves, and I feel like a lot of people aren't ready or willing to deal with it. And also we have to recognize that we can still, fight for this liberation and deal with those things at the same time. I know one criticism of sort of Black power, Black nationalist movements is that, and just some Black people in general, is that they want Black folks to put all those other isms aside until we achieve this liberation, whatever that looks like. But the reality is that we will never get to that liberation if we don't deal with those things now within our community. Ooh, we are at 56 minutes in. So yeah, please start sharing your final thoughts for this conversation. We definitely can spend more time talking about this. In upcoming chats, especially the chat that will be the day before Independence Day, because you know that's a tricky holiday with Black folks because we weren't free. Still ain't free. But yeah, maybe you guys will talk about that. I will not be hosting the July chats because I will be traveling. I will be in the comments as best I can. Kenya and Farai, our other team members, will be hosting the chats, the 2 chats in July. I'm not sure what they're going to talk about. Maybe Farai said she's going to talk about minimalism and kids, maybe. And like I said, I hope, I don't know what Kenya is planning to talk about, if she's the one that's doing the July 3rd one, or whoever does the July 3rd one, but I hope that we can continue this conversation of what freedom means. Clarence says, do y'all sell merch? You haven't asked that question before. I don't think anybody's asked it before, but we are in the process of developing that and figuring out how we can do this in a way that is in line with our minimalist values. So yes, we will have merchandise on the way. Hopefully within the by the fall or at the latest, the end of this year. Yes, we'll provide. People love t-shirts. Even though you already have 100 of them, Clarence, or 50, or what are you down to, 30 now? Please share this talk. It was a really great discussion. I would love to have this conversation like in person with like more people on here. One day we're going to figure out how to do at least get all the team members on this chat. But yeah, thank you all for your comments. For those who watched, even if you didn't comment, thank you for joining us. And these chats are held every 2 weeks. So every other Monday, plan on us being here. So the next one, I believe, is July 3rd at 7:30. Clarence said, but now my shirts have meaning. That's true. That's true. And by purchasing a shirt, you will be supporting our organization. So, like I said, we're going to try to provide merch and try to do it in a way that's very conscious and supportive and in line with our minimalist values. So yeah, thank you for joining me and sticking with me through this challenging conversation. And we'll see you guys around, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Peace.